Hi, my name is Allison Ottensmeyer, and this is the case study Parental Apathy for EDL 856, Module 16. For Category 1, Problem Identification, what do I know? First off, I know that the new assistant principal is Mrs. Rose. There seems to be struggling parent involvement, but the principal seems to be well aware of the situation. There has been little commitment to trying to get more involvement throughout the school. There was an invitation that was sent for a parent meeting, but it was sent home through students. The parent meeting that was held has very minimal attendance, and there seems to be a discouraged and unmotivated principal to help problem solve the situation in order to look for new ways to gain involvement. What I need to know is just a little bit of school background on parent involvement, if there was in the past involvement or if it has always been like this, or where and what has gone wrong. What are the ways that parents are being communicated with? Are they only being communicated with, um, relying on students to deliver information? The demographics of the area, and why can't there be any type of parent organizations besides a parent awareness group? I also would like to know if parents got offered other volunteering opportunities in the past. If so, what was the response to these offerings? Also, I would like to know if the teachers are willing to help to get more involvement, and also if they have tried to get parent volunteers themselves. I believe that the problem relies in that the communication seems to be lacking, and this is due to because there's no relationships that have been built between the schools, the community, all of the stakeholders, and especially the parents. Their communication means is very limited. Relying on students to deliver information to parents is not necessarily a reliable source, but it also isn't a way for the school to be communicating with parents, as it shouldn't be up for the students to have to deliver news about parent meetings and things like that, as some of our kids may not even remember to do so. There's been few volunteer opportunities that were noted. I think that we have to be mindful that all parents have a different work schedule, and that not every parent can commit themselves to cafeteria help only. And to be honest, if I was a parent, I don't know if I necessarily would want to volunteer my time in the cafeteria. So just being mindful of what parents would probably like to volunteer for, and giving them more opportunities than just one. I think that there's also a little bit of a problem with the flexibility and openness to change, and just not always assume. But also, I think that we also have a problem with support and collaboration on the principal, between him and the new assistant principal. My proposed plan of action is that we would go ahead to proceed with the parent meeting. I think that this is a great starting point. I understand that there was minimal attendance, but it's more than what we've had before, so it would be a great starting point. During this meeting, I would like to set goals, kind of give a background on what I would like to see happen, listen to parents, get feedback, and answer any questions that they may have. But I want them to know that I want to collaborate with them and create a vision about parent volunteering and committees at the school to help build those relationships. I would like to, right then and there, start up a next meeting and invite parents to share that meeting and goals of their group with their friends or others who they think might be interested. I don't necessarily want to, make any hardcore decisions at the first meeting, since there is very minimal attendance. But I think that it's important that, it's not just an open, just a kind of an open meeting. I think that we need to get something done so that the parents see that you are willing to make decisions and get some stuff done and want involvement, and that you are truly devoted to it. And then lastly, just to thank them for working with you and encourage them to stay involved and to remind them that you are open to their ideas and that you want to work together as a team. The next step in my plan of action would be to set up some new communication methods. I would send out a couple surveys to see what type of communication methods parents check most often. There's a variety of different ways to communicate with parents these days, and if that means that we need to set up a couple different ways to communicate, I think that's something that we need to do. Also, to begin to communicate the happenings of the school frequently, just so that parents can see what is going on in the school building, and that hopefully that this will get their interest stirring, and that they would want to be a part of those things that are happening. Once some new communication methods have been put into place, I would send out another survey to parents, and just see what they think of the communication method so far, and if they're okay with the frequency, if it's too much, if it's too little, if they're liking what they're seeing, so that we can move forward. I would also like to be open to new ideas of communication from parents. Some parents may not have technology, so just being open and mindful to all the communication methods that we can do as a school to reach those parents. And then lastly, I just want to make sure that I'm consistent with communication. I think that when you have consistency, it shows that you are there, and that you stand behind what you're doing, and that you're going to follow it through. Next, I would work to develop relationships with the parents and community. Greet parents. This can be done by greeting parents when they come into the building. Sending out a letter about communication methods so that parents are aware of what they could potentially sign up for to see what's happening in the school. Invite parents to be open with the administration. If we're not transparent with them and letting them see that we are devoted to them and their children, I don't think that we'll get much of a response from them to be open with us. So that's something that I would try to work on. And then I would also try to just send out some surveys in hopes that families would share what their interests are, so that I can kind of see the background that they're coming from, and have some conversation starters for when I do go out and try to talk to those parents to help build those relationships. Lastly, I call this my ready, set, action piece, just because this is where I think that all that is just some prior work, but this is where it really comes down to it. It all goes back to that we need parents to volunteer. We need parents and community members to work with us to make sure that our students are successful. There has been research out there that proves that when the community and the parents and the school work together, that our students' success will truly succeed. So, getting volunteer opportunities, I think, is just one way that we can help build those volunteer relationships between the school and all the stakeholders. So the first thing that I would do is just talk with the staff to find ways for parents to volunteer, in meaningful ways for parents to volunteer, not just cafeteria help. Then I would send out surveys and signups for parents to volunteer with a variety of options and times that are fitting, hopefully, to their schedule, but are also mindful to what our staff and students need the most help with. I would then continue the parent awareness meetings to gain support and interest of parents. Hopefully, through these type of meetings, we can develop some further relationships, but also some more committees, and get the involvement up within the school. And just be consistent with opportunities and meetings. I don't want the volunteering to slide off from one month to another. I want to make sure that the meetings are happening frequently, and also at a time that parents can come. But just making sure that to build consistency so that they can see that we are devoted to bringing them into the school and having them be active in their child's education. For category 3, I believe that I promoted success because parents and staff and administration working together for students. Student success is a team effort with all stakeholders being involved. And we saw in this case study that there was minimal collaboration between all parties, which led to not everyone working together. Secondly, I came up with new communication methods which will allow for open communication between all parties. In this case study, administration was relying on students just to deliver the information to their parents, and it's not a student's job to communicate with their parents information that should be delivered from the administration or their teacher. Next, I invited collaboration amongst the administration, staff, and parents. In this case study, there was little to no collaboration being done between these parties. Through collaboration, relationships will be built and everyone will begin to work together. When everyone comes together, it can only mean one thing, and that being student success will soar. Next, I made sure that relationships were started to be built or nourished to the point that they were really strong. In this case study, it was very apparent that the principal was fine with not making an effort to build those relationships with the community, as he assumed that's how they wanted it to be. The principal was okay with the things that were not happening and not open to change or being flexible with the new assistant principal in her efforts to gain community involvement. And lastly, I promoted student success by having consistent volunteering and involvement opportunities provided to all stakeholders. In this case study, the principal was not giving opportunities to parents involved, and when he did, it was very minimal and it didn't meet the times that parents could potentially come. And it didn't really show that he was trying anything else. The lack of attendance at the meeting could be a lack of effort that was put forth earlier from the principal. My reflection is that the current principal needs to look at gaining community and parent support. How could he just assume that parents were okay with the limited volunteering options? If your volunteering didn't go over well, I would always try something else. The community and school must work together to ensure successful, inclusive education for all students. The school must not be meeting the needs of the community, or there's a lack of relationship emphasis, and I think that has been seen for some time. Some of the unresolved issues that I see going forward is how can the communication and collaboration between the principal and assistant principal be strengthened? Why is the principal so against any type of PTA or PTO? If the parents wanted to get one started, would this even be possible? Because he said he wasn't going to support it. And will the current principal support the assistant principal in her efforts to gain community relationships? And hopefully he will. And hopefully he'll see the impact that she is giving to the community. I promoted the academic success by setting up new communication methods. I continued and planned future parent meetings. I set up a variety of volunteer opportunities so that students could see that all stakeholders were invested in their education. I collaborated with teachers to find ways that volunteers could work with students to help them succeed. And I promoted relationships between the stakeholders in the school setting. I promoted the personal well-being of every student by building relationships and taking pride in that and being devoted to building those relationships. I became an advocate for parents, community members, and the school to work together. I made sure that our students' needs were at the top of the list. And I made sure that families felt welcomed while not putting it on the students to communicate it back to their parents. And lastly, as an educational leader, I promoted the community of engagement for families by just beginning to build those relationships with parents and families and also all stakeholders. I continued the parent meetings and encouraged parents to invite others to join us. And I came up with new communication methods and hope to reach more and to encourage two-way communication and openness of school happenings.